If you're like me, you probably follow every single update during the NFL draft process. Every report, every news segment, I'm locked in. The thing about the draft is that it's always changing. One day, a player is considered a top pick, and the next, their stock is dropping fast. Take Mason Graham, for example. Some people were calling him a top 2 or top 3 pick, even a generational talent. But when you actually watch his game footage, it doesn't quite match the hype. And now we're seeing his draft stock dip. In fact, some experts believe he's not even the best defensive tackle in this class, maybe not even the best on his own team. Then there's James Pierce Jr. and Mike Green. Their tape looks incredible, but there are big concerns about their character. That's the kind of thing that can make or break a player's draft position. Even the offensive tackle rankings have shifted. At first, Josh Connerly Jr. was seen as the top guy. He's still a first-round talent, but now it looks like the best tackle in this class is Armin Moe from Missouri. His technique is on another level. The way he plays reminds me of Darnell Wright. His footwork, his ability to control defenders, it's just different from everyone else. But like I said, the draft is unpredictable. A player's stock can rise or fall overnight. We've seen guys like Kayvon Thibodeau shoot up the rankings just before the draft, and we've also seen top prospects slip way further than expected, like Dean Jones, who some experts thought would go in the top 10, but he ended up in the 4th round. And now, one of the biggest surprises? Mel Kiper is saying that Shedeur Sanders is no longer the top quarterback in this class. Not only that, some teams don't even have him on their draft board anymore. That's a huge fall from where he was projected just a short time ago. I'll break down exactly what Kiper said and what it means for the draft. Let's get into it. Right now, the buzz around the NFL is pointing to one name, Cam Ward. According to reports, he's becoming the clear favorite to be the first quarterback taken in the draft. And guess what? Mel Kiper just confirmed it. Kiper said he made some calls, and the word around the league is that Cam Ward is the consensus number 1 quarterback. Honestly, this doesn't surprise me. Some people might be shocked, but if you've been following the draft for a while, you know how quickly things can change, especially for quarterbacks. We saw this same thing happen last year. At one point, people were saying Jaden Daniels would be a second-round pick, and Michael Penix Jr. might not go until the 5th. But once draft day arrived, everything changed. The quarterback position is unpredictable, and that's exactly what we're seeing now with Cam Ward. If you've watched his tape, you know why he's climbing up the board. Ward is impressive. He makes every throw look easy, his timing is sharp, and his ball placement is nearly perfect. He's the kind of quarterback who can take control of a game, and that's what NFL teams want. But here's where it gets interesting. After confirming Ward's rise, Kiper also shared some inside info about Shedeur Sanders, and it's not good news for him. According to what Kiper heard from people around the league, NFL teams aren't looking for a quarterback like Shedeur anymore. He's not the prototypical quarterback teams want. They say he's not fast enough, not explosive enough, and he can't escape the pressure the way modern quarterbacks need to. Now, here's my take. I don't think a quarterback needs to be lightning fast to succeed in the NFL. Some of the best in the game, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, aren't necessarily the fastest guys on the field. What makes them great is their ability to stand in the pocket, read the defense, and deliver perfect throws under pressure. So, does Shedeur Sanders really have a problem? Or is this just another case of draft stock shifting at the last minute? That's the big question, and we're going to break it all down. The best quarterbacks in the NFL can beat you with their arm. They don't need to be the fastest or the most athletic. They just need to read the field, make quick decisions, and deliver accurate throws. But here's the problem with Shedeur Sanders. If you watch his tape, you'll notice something concerning. He's often late reading the field. He locks onto his first or second option and struggles to go through his progressions. Meanwhile, there are times when wide-open receivers are downfield, and he just doesn't pull the trigger. Now, if a quarterback isn't super fast, that's fine, but then you'd expect them to make quick reads, process defenses efficiently, and make the right throws. And right now, Shedeur doesn't seem to be that type of quarterback. I've been saying this for months. I had Cam Ward as my QB1 a while ago, and I know some people weren't happy about that take. And let's be real, I'll probably get roasted in the comments for saying this again. But I stand by my opinion. Even if the Raiders were to draft Shedeur, though I don't think they will, I'd still have major concerns about his ability to process defenses and throw with the kind of accuracy needed at the next level. Some people might argue, but look at his completion percentage. But here's the thing, completion percentage doesn't tell the full story. In the NFL, accuracy isn't just about hitting short passes or screens, it's about placing the ball exactly where it needs to be, 30 or 40 yards downfield in tight windows against elite defenders. That's what separates great quarterbacks from average ones. That's why this report from Mel Kiper is so interesting. Could Shedeur still go in the first round? Maybe. Teams love to gamble on quarterbacks with potential. But if you're a team like the Raiders or the Giants, would you take that risk? Or would you be better off going after a proven veteran like Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, or Matthew Stafford? It's a big question, and the answer could shape the future of multiple teams. We'll see what happens, but one thing's for sure, this draft just got a whole lot more interesting. Let's switch gears and talk about the NFL Combine, which is just around the corner. We're about to see some serious freaks of nature. These are the guys who are going to blow us away with their athleticism and maybe even break some records. Now, we're not going to go through every name, but I've got a few standouts I'm really excited about. First off, let's talk about some absolute monsters. Guys who are built differently. You know the type I'm talking about, like Montez Sweat a few years ago. He was massive, insanely strong, and then he ran a 4.4 40-yard dash. Unreal. These are the kinds of athletes we're about to see at the Combine. One name that's been flying under the radar but could shock everyone is Shedeur. Now, I know some of you are probably thinking, wait, who? But hear me out. This guy could be the #1 overall pick in this draft. Yes, I said it. I know. It might sound crazy, but let's break it down. At first, his teammate, Nick Gorton, was getting all the hype. People thought Gorton was a lock for the top 10. But now, it's Stewart who's getting all the attention. Some are even saying he could go #1 overall. So why all the buzz? Well, Shedeur is a freak of nature. At the Senior Bowl, he measured in at 6 feet 5 inches, 281 pounds. That alone is bigger than most defensive ends in the NFL. But here's the crazy part. He's faster than nearly everyone who weighs that much. When I watch Stewart, the only guy I can compare him to is Myles Garrett. And trust me, that's a big comparison. He's that explosive. This isn't a Tyreek Wilson situation. Stewart's way faster, more twitchy, and has that extra bend that makes him a nightmare for offensive linemen. I'm telling you, there's a chance Stewart could be the #1 pick in this draft. Don't get me wrong, I think Abdul Carter has the better tape and has been more productive. But Stewart's physical tools are something else, and we could see a lot of buzz around him come Combine time. Now, let's talk about Abdul Carter. He's expected to come in at around 6 feet 2 inches, 240 pounds, maybe a little more if he's lucky. But here's the thing. Shedeur is just built differently. He's going to be a dominant force against both the run and the pass, especially if he sharpens his technique. Right now, Stewart still needs some polish, but even with that, his technique is already better than what we saw from Tyree Wilson coming out. And let's be real, if he puts up a jaw-dropping 40-yard dash anywhere between a 4.3 and a 4.49, teams will take notice. If that happens, I wouldn't be shocked if he cracks the top 5 picks. That's my hot take. Now, I'll admit, based purely on tape, I still think Abdul Carter looks better. But NFL teams? They don't always draft based on tape alone. We've seen it before. They'll take an ultra-athletic edge rusher over a proven playmaker. Just look at what happened with Tyree Wilson going ahead of Jalen Carter, or the Jaguars picking Travon Walker over guys with better production. It happens all the time. So, Stewart, he's definitely one to watch at the Combine. Speaking of guys I'm excited to see, let's talk about Travis Hunter. We already know what he can do, but seeing his official numbers will be fascinating. Another name? Jordan Birch. This dude is a freak athlete. He started out as a defensive end before transferring to Oregon, and word is, he packed on a crazy 25 pounds of muscle. A couple of years ago, he was sitting at around 265 to 270 pounds. Now, he's up to 295. That's a massive jump, and he's still moving like an absolute beast. Now, does the tape back it up? Not really, but his raw power and physicality, that makes him a must-watch. And then there's Kenneth Grant out of Michigan. This guy is huge. Some scouts even think he might be better than Mason Graham, which is a wild statement. I'm not sure I buy that, but what I do know is this: he's been insanely productive, and I'd be absolutely shocked if he falls past the second round. If he somehow slips to the third, that would be one of the biggest surprises of the draft. Finally, keep an eye on Ty Williams from Ohio State. We'll see how he measures up, but trust me, there are a lot of potential stars heading into this combine. It's going to be electric. Now, here's a name you need to keep an eye on, because a lot of people might be sleeping on him. Some of you might not know this, but I've worked as a scout before, specifically at the Hula Bowl. And let me tell you, when you're a scout, you get access to reports that most people don't see. These reports come from a scouting agency that the NFL itself uses. They gather all kinds of measurements, rankings, and evaluations from former NFL players who break down film and talent at the highest level. One name that stood out? Keon Williams. Before this season even started, he was ranked as a top 5 player. That means last year's tape had scouts convinced he was one of the best prospects heading into this draft cycle. Now, did his stock take a hit this season? Maybe. But talent like that doesn't just disappear. Another guy? Luther Burden. Believe it or not, heading into this season, he was ranked as the #1 player by that same scouting agency. And guess what? Some scouts still believe he's a top 10 pick. I wouldn't be surprised. This guy is an absolute monster on the field. Now, Tetro McMillan, he's another player I'm excited to see at the Combine. Everyone lists him at 6 feet 5 inches, but is he really that tall? And more importantly, what's his actual weight? When you mix that size with speed, you get a lethal combination, and that's exactly what teams are looking for. Then there's James Pierce Jr. The guy is a beast on tape. Statistically, he was the most dominant defensive end last season. But now, the big question: how tall is he really? Is he a legit 6 feet 5 inches? Or is he shorter? And let's not ignore the fact that there are some character concerns teams might question. But at the end of the day, the tape doesn't lie. He dominated on the field. Charles Grant is another guy who was supposed to be at the Senior Bowl, but wasn't. Now, the focus is on his measurements. Is he really 6 feet 4 inches? Does he have the arm length to hold up at the next level? Because when you watch his tape, it's clear he's got the skills to be a problem for opposing offenses. And finally, Arnold Mao. This dude is ridiculously strong. You can see it on tape, but now we have the official numbers. His wingspan, 34 inches. His height, 6 feet, 3.5 inches. Now, some people will argue that he's not tall enough to play offensive tackle in the NFL. But come on, if one guy is 6 feet 3.5 inches and another is 6 feet 4 inches, what's the real difference? Just a fraction of an inch. What actually matters for offensive tackles? Arm length, that's the real key. With all these prospects, the NFL Combine is about to get a whole lot more interesting. These measurements, these performances, they can make or break a player's draft stock. And trust me, it's going to be wild to watch. Now let's talk about a guy who's been tested against the best and dominated. If you go back and watch the tape, you'll see him going up against top-tier defensive ends like Nick Scorton, Shamir Stewart, and Landon Jackson from Arkansas. And guess what? He handled them. That's the kind of performance that makes scouts take notice. But now, it's time to see how he measures up at the Combine. What's his bench press? How strong is he really? These numbers will tell us a lot. Now, shifting gears, there are some serious speed demons I'm keeping an eye on. One of the biggest names? Travis Hunter. His 40-yard dash time is going to be something to watch, but for me, the real question is, where should he play? I've said this before, and I'll say it again, Travis Hunter should be a wide receiver. If I'm in charge of a team, I'm playing him at receiver. If I'm drafting in a fantasy league and he's listed as a wide receiver, I'm taking him. That's how high I am on his talent with the ball. But if he sticks to cornerback, I'm staying away. Simple as that. Now, let's talk about some underrated names. One guy flying under the radar? Bashal Tutin out of Virginia Tech. Some people believe he's a top 3 running back in this draft class, but most fans barely know his name. Right now, he's ranked ahead of players like Caleb Johnson. Some even prefer him over North Carolina's Amarian Hampton. The combine is going to be huge for him. If he puts up strong numbers, his draft stock could skyrocket. The NFL Combine is all about proving yourself. Who's got the size, the speed, the strength, and the raw athleticism to make scouts and teams take notice? And trust me, with the talent in this year's class, we're going to see some fireworks. Now, here's a name that might surprise you: Bashal Tutin. Some scouts believe he could be on the same level as Ashton Jeanty. Now sure, he didn't put up monster numbers like Jeanty, but let's be real, he didn't get the same number of touches either. So, what happens if he gets a fair shot? If he runs in the 4.3 seconds at the combine, that would be absolutely insane. Here's something crazy. He was reportedly clocked at 23 miles per hour and ran a 4.32 40-yard dash in the offseason. If he even comes close to that again under the bright lights of the NFL Combine, teams are going to take notice. He's got the speed. Now, let's see if he can back it up. Another guy to watch? Isaiah Bond. Some people think he could sneak into the first round, and honestly, I see the argument. Now, do I think he's a guaranteed first-rounder? Not necessarily. But in today's NFL, teams love speed. Just look at what happened with the Chiefs. They overvalued speed and grabbed Xavier Worthy. The Colts followed suit with another Texas wide receiver just because he was fast. Now, what if a team like the Dolphins, who might lose Tyreek Hill, decides they need a speedster? That could push Bond into the first round. His 40-yard dash will be huge in determining how high he goes. But the guy I'm most excited to see? Arian Smith out of Georgia. This dude might break the 40-yard dash record. Last year, Xavier Worthy ran a 4.21, an absolute blur. But some scouts think Smith can go even faster. That's the kind of speed that turns heads and skyrockets draft stock. Georgia wide receivers don't always put up eye-popping stats, but that doesn't mean they don't succeed at the next level. Just look at guys like George Pickens. He wasn't insanely productive in college, but in the NFL, he's a problem. If Smith delivers at the combine, he could follow that same path. And, of course, we can't forget about the quarterbacks. Shedeur Sanders is going to be a fascinating prospect to watch as the draft process unfolds. Cam Ward and Jackson Dart? Their stock is rising fast. Dart, in particular, has seen his name shoot up the boards lately. So, as we head into the combine, get ready. The speed, the athleticism, the breakout performances. It's all about to unfold. Let me know what you guys think in the comments and stay tuned, because this draft class is shaping up to be special.